The UFC is back in Louisville, Kentucky for the first time in 13 years. Not the best card on paper, but at least we're not at the Apex, right? First fight of the night, we got Miguel Baeza taking on Punahele Soriano. So Baeza is 3-3 in the UFC. Started off hot, won his first 3 fights. Since then, lost his last 3, including the last 2 by knockout. Soriano, pretty similar situation. He's 3-4 in the UFC, and he's lost 4 of 5, and the last 2 by knockout. Both of them are 31 years old, and both of them have 13 pro fights for whatever that's worth. I'm going to take the over 1.5 here. It's minus 120. I'm going to parlay it with something. I'll get to that later. It's a little bit risky because 77% of their combined fights have ended in finish. But in Baez's 6 UFC fights, 4 of them have hit the over 1.5. And in Soriano's last 5 fights, he's hit the over 1.5 4 times. So I think it's a pretty solid play, even though it's only minus 120. I think everyone should kind of hop all over that. If you guys are looking for anything else to take, the fight end KO prop hasn't dropped yet. But when it does, it's probably going to be minus money, but it's probably going to be low minus money. I think that's worth throwing in your parlay. If you have faith in Baeza or Soriano, I think you should take them with the KO prop. Baeza by KO plus 200, Soriano by KO plus 275. 16 of their combined 26 fights have ended in KO. That's 62%. If you're worried, though, I think it's going to end by sub because Soriano has been sub before. Baeza by finish is plus 110. It's also a really solid play if you're confident in him. Next fight of the night, we got Julian Marquez taking on Zachary Reese. So Marquez, he's 3-3 in the UFC. Those 3 wins came by sub. He has lost his last 2 by knockout. Really not very active, dude. He came off Contender Series like 7 years ago and has only fought 6 times since then. Kind of crazy. Zach Reese just lost his UFC debut. If you remember, he's the guy who got slam KO'd by Cody Brundage. That was right after or before Drakkar Close also slam KO'd someone. So the back-to-back slam KOs. Tough break. So he's 0-1 in the UFC, but he is 6-1 overall, and all 7 of those fights have ended in the first round. So I'm going to play it real safe here. I'm taking fight does not go the distance. It's minus 600, okay? I'm parlaying it with the over 1.5 in Baeza Soriano. It's plus 114. I think that's a really solid play. 18 of their combined 20 fights have not gone the distance. So hence the price tag, but I think that's a solid value. Dude, looking for anything else to take. Julian Marquez, he opened as a plus 115 dog. Since then, he's all the way down to minus 130 right now. But hopefully someone hopped on him as a dog. I still think he's worth maybe throwing in your parlay or something as a minus money piece because I like him in this fight a lot. I don't think Zach Reese is that great, even though Marquez has been finished recently. The over half a round has not dropped yet, but 12 of their combined 20 fights has hit it. And I think that's a safe play. It's similar to my fight does not go the distance. Just kind of get out of there. As I mentioned, though, Reese has not been out of the first round, so I guess it's a little risky, but I don't know. Could be solid. Next fight of the night, we got Brunno Ferreira taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. So Ferreira is 2-1 in the UFC, and they've all ended by knockout. Stoltzfus 2-4 in the UFC. Started off kind of crappy. Since then, he's won 2 of his last 3. I don't trust Dustin Stoltzfus here at all, honestly. I'm going to take Brunno Ferreira by finish because all 11 of his wins are by finish. That's minus 220. I'm going to parlay it. Get to that later. Stoltzfus, though, has been finished in 3 of his last 5, all in the UFC. So I feel like there's a clear path to victory there for Brunno. If you guys are looking for anything else to take, not the best plays on this fight because there's really nothing worth taking besides parlay pieces, but Ferreira by KO. 8 of his 11 wins have come by KO. It's minus 170. Again, throw it in a parlay. The only plus money piece I could find, which I'm not into, is the over 1.5 at plus 125. There's a chance it hits. Besides that, I don't think there's anything worth taking on that fight, to be honest with you. Next fight of the night, we got Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Ricky Turcios. So this is that long-awaited, I almost said rematch, but reschedule of that fight from March where Rosas had like trouble weighing in and they canceled it. It wasn't even trouble weighing in. He got sick after weighing in, and they canceled it on the night of the fights. That was back on that Rosenstrike Gaziev card. But Raul Rosas Jr. is 8-1 overall, 2-1 in the UFC, still only 19 years old. Fucking wild. Turcios, 30 years old, 12-3 overall, also 2-1 in the UFC. I'm going to take the over 1.5 here. The line is set at 2.5. The over 1.5 is minus 250. It's set at 2.5 for a reason. I'm going the safer route here with the 1.5. Adding it to another parlay. I'll get to it. But Raul Rosas Jr. has hit the over 1.5 in 2 of his last 4 fights, and Turcios hit the over 1.5 in 4 of his last 5. I do think if you're looking for anything else, there is safe. It's safe to take the 2.5 as well. The over 2.5, it's minus 155 right now. Turcio, 10 of his 15 fights have gone the distance, and neither of these guys have ever been finished. So this fight could easily go the distance. I also like Ricky Turcios as a dog here. He's plus 200 right now. And I feel like he could easily pull the Christian Rodriguez and upset Raul Rosas Jr. here. He's a more experienced fighter. He's also arguably in the prime of his age, prime of his career, I should say, at 30 years of age. I think someone should hop on that. Honestly, I might. Rosas Jr. by decision, if you're confident in him. As I mentioned, Turcios never been finished before, so if you're confident in Raul to win, you should take him by decision. It's plus 150. Next fight of the night, we got Dom Reyes taking on Dustin Jacoby. Poor Dom Reyes, man. He's 6-4 in the UFC, which is you're like, all right, 500 fighter, but he won his first 6 fights and then he lost 4 in a row, and his last 3 by like brutal knockout. And the one before the brutal knockouts was fucking the close ass decision to John Jones, which he really maybe won. So tough break in the career there. Dustin Jacoby 7-3-1 in the UFC. Similar thing, unbeaten in his first 7 fights. Since then, lost 3 of 4. You would argue this is a close fight on paper, but given how Dom Reyes' chin has looked recently, I really have no faith in him anymore, sadly. But I'm going to take the over half a round, okay? It's minus 300. It's somewhat risky because fucking they've only hit it in 3 of their last 5, both of them. So it's like, shit, man, that's like, all right, 60%. It's safer on the side of it's minus 300, but it's really not that safe, especially with Dom Reyes' chin. But I'm parlaying that with the 2 fights from earlier, the Rosas Jr. Turcios over 1.5 and the Brunno Ferreira by finish. And that comes out to plus 172. So I like that a lot. That's my 3-legger parlay on this. And then what else was there? Anything else for this fight if you're looking for? Dustin Jacoby by KO. As I mentioned, Dom Reyes' chin is trash. He's been KO'd 4 times, including 3 times in a row. That's plus 120, solid value. And the over 1.5, if you're willing to jump on that, I am not. It's plus 100. Main event, we got Jared Cannonier taking on Nassourdine Imavov. Cannonier is 40 years old, surprisingly. 10-6 in the UFC, 7-2 though at 185. Those other 7 fights were at heavyweight and light heavyweight, respectively. His only losses at 85, Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya. Really solid losses. Imavov, on the other hand, he's only 29 years old. He's 5-2, won no contest in the UFC. And his 2 losses, Sean Strickland, Phil Hawes. One of these things is not like the other. So, real weird loss to Phil Hawes there. But I guess losing to Strickland is obviously solid. If you guys believe in MMA math, Cannonier beat Strickland and Strickland beat Imavov. I say Imavov. Some people say Imavov. I switch. I'm high as fuck right now. All right. But if you believe in that shit, Cannonier wins this fight. And I don't believe in that shit, but I'm taking Cannonier money line plus 125. Solid play there, dude. He's got the better resume and everything. I think he beats Imavov here. Jesus. If you guys are looking for anything else to take the over 4.5 rounds is minus 170. 5 of Jared's last 6 have gone the distance. 4 of those 5 were 5 rounders. Imavov, 3 of his last 4 have gone the distance, and 2 of those were 5-rounders. If you think Imavov is going to win by decision, plus 200. 4 of Jared's last 6 losses by decision.
I'm worth 100,000 like Woodrow. When a ball call me Wilson, going overboard at the Hilton.